Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode we're continuing our 1980 full range Vauxhall brochure with the very early Vauxhall Astra. Hello and welcome back. Now, if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car memories, looking back on car brochures, really memories is what this channel is really all about. Please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Anyway, back to today's episode. Yes, we've been looking at this 1980 full range Vauxhall brochure. Last week we looked at the Chevette and kind of compared that to the 78 Chevette, seeing the changes that came about. This week it's the Astra. Of course, the Astra wasn't around in 78, so we can't do that, of course. Just arrived here in 1980, but we'll certainly compare that to the Opel Kadett for that period, because rather strangely and rather confusingly, the Opel Kadett and the Vauxhall Astra are sold at the same time in the UK. So we'll see how that worked as well, but let's throw that on the board and let's talk a bit more about it. So here is today's brochure, and like I said, this has become a bit of a series. Last week we looked at the Chevette and kind of compared and contrasted how it changed from the 1978 full range brochure. But in this 78 full range brochure, the next model after the Chevette was actually the Viva. Viva is now gone, very much an 80 model anyway, even by 78. Replaced by the Astra, and here it looks almost out of place in that, this is the new model, so it does look a little bit out of place. And also, I think the other standout point with the Astra is the Vauxhall always tried to do that sort of like a droop snoot type of idea, which really made it look different to the Opel models. And even for the Astra, they was going to do that same sort of trademark droop snoot, but they kind of like run out of money, I think, and decided to go for just this sort of rebadged Opel Kadett, not even having that different nose on it. But GM, they cancelled that development, and really I think that marked a really big change for Vauxhall from then on. Now the Astra here is Vauxhall's first front wheel drive car, so it was certainly very much that new era, both in being a front wheel drive car and also being just a rebadged Opel with hardly any changes at all, which made it a puzzling model in that at this time the Kadett, and yes, this is a UK brochure, so the Kadett was being sold alongside the Astra, different dealers. It wasn't a joint dealer network at the time, but you could go in the Vauxhall dealership, look at the Astra, go into the Opel dealership, who knows, maybe next door, look at the Kadett, and you'd be like, this is the same car, surely. So that was certainly strange. The other very strange point about this, these are both 1980s brochure, that the UK production hadn't even started for the Astra at this time. So both the Kadett and the Astra were both being produced at Opel's West Germany plant. So essentially they were both being built next to each other. The production of the Astra in the UK didn't start in Ellesmere Port until the 16th of November 1981, so that's another peculiarity of this Astra and its Kadett sister. So this posed a bit of a problem with Vauxhall, really, is how can we sell the Astra? The Kadett had already been out. The Kadett was the first off the mark, being launched in 1979. The Astra, that was on sale in March 1980, so on this brochure it hadn't been for sale for very long, so This was already starting to become a little bit established in the UK, and then the same car came along. So how can you then sell the Astra? So essentially, these two lineups were, competing directly with each other. Initially, the way Astra sold this and got around this, they only came with a very limited lineup, and we'll see that very limited lineup for the Astra. The Opel, by this time, had quite an interesting lineup, a much more interesting range of cars. By around about 1982, however, this had kind of like been almost sorted out, as GM had begun to merge these two previously separate Vauxhall and Opel dealers, so selling the Vauxhalls in the UK and everyone else getting the Opel badge ones. So that freed up the market. Initially, they sold the Astra with then a larger range by 82, and then the Opel badge ones had the more sporty ones like the Berliner and the SR, so that freed up a lot of space. And then still later on from that, the Opel badge ones, the Kadett, were eventually phased out completely in the UK, and then it made more sense as a range. But the interesting thing with these brochures is we can pretend we're there in 1980, these two cars being sold next to each other. We'll look at that very small Astra range at the time as it's just been launched, and we'll also have a look at the much more interesting Kadett range, and we'll think, well, when I looked at these, I'd think, well, I'd get the Kadett, it makes more sense. But certainly let me know in the comments what you would have done when you saw these two lineups. Obviously, the Vauxhall badge possibly meant more to the UK buyer, so I'm sure they still sold lots of Astras even at this very early time when the Kadett range were much more interesting. Anyway, that's going to be the story of today. So we'll start by going back to this 1980s Vauxhall brochure and this lovely new world, this new era, the Vauxhall Astra. The first time it actually mentions Astra is in this first page, which kind of like talking about the full range, but we'll just zoom in on this very short paragraph. You'd think with a new car it would make more of a deal about it, but a very short paragraph. Astra, an advanced design that exploits the concept of transverse engine front wheel drive to its fullest extent. And then continues talking about the rest of the range. It does kind of like mention it early on where it says since then Ford newer car ranges, Cavalier, Carlton, Royal and the very latest Astra has been introduced. But really, you'd think because this is a new car they would make a really big deal about it. I mean, if I was making this brochure I'd make that entire paragraph about the Astra, but I don't know why they didn't. Anyway, let's turn to the actual Astra page. So after Chevette comes Astra. This is where we would normally see the Viva in the earlier brochure, but certainly Viva was a very old-fashioned car and it always seemed to be very strange being sold alongside Chevette to me. But certainly the Astra kind of like makes more sense. It fits in better, I think, with the Chevette and now the Astra. I think that looks a little bit more balanced as a range. It describes it as the Astra takes the concept of the transverse engine, front-wheel drive layout, a dramatic step forward with an unrivaled combination of style, roominess, performance, economy and handling. Again, not making a huge deal about it, really taking that point that this is a front-wheel engine, front-wheel drive car now. Other than that, I think they could have said more. It is a new car after all, but they're not really shouting about it. The images are nice though. This rather nice bronze coloured top of the range at the time version, and then telling us that this is the GL, which was the top of the range and the only model in the range at this time. Yes, they were just selling the GL and then the L estate. That's all that was in the range at this early time, which seems peculiar. They certainly sorted it out later on, but it wasn't really that an interesting a range when you compared it to what the Opel dealers were selling with the Kadettes. They just thought, we'll just try and slot these in somewhere that aren't really affecting Kadett sales. A confusing time, and I think the main problem was the Kadett and the Astra being sold at the same time in the UK until they sorted all those issues out. GM said, hold on a minute, this isn't making sense. Anyway, let's turn to the first page when it'll show us the first model. So the first and kind of like only model up, the Astra GL. So a 5-door hatchback, front wheel drive, 1300S power. The only proper model apart from the estate in the range at launch to try and fit it in there. I'm sure they did sell purely because it had a Vauxhall badge, and UK buyers probably would have aimed more for Vauxhall badged products, I would imagine. But like I say, certainly when we look at the Kadett range, it's a very fine slot that they're trying to fit the Astra into. Anyway, we'll read the text and then we'll have a look at some of these really lovely images, and it is a really nice model actually, the GL. Even though in some ways it feels quite basic by today's standard, think nice seats, etc. So it starts by telling us, with the backing of General Motors' vast resources and technical expertise, the Astra design team employed the most advanced technology in the motor industry to develop a car with class-leading qualities. It's a totally new car. Engine, gearbox, drive unit, suspension, steering, brakes. Every major component has been designed and developed specifically for the Astra. The free-revving 1300S engine develops 75 bhp at 5,800 rpm. Highly advanced in design, it couples remarkable performance with exceptional economy. Slim pillars and a generous glass area give the driver commanding views all round. Reversing is easy with the unobstructed view through the heated tailgate window with wash wipe standard, of course. So it starts talking about the dimensions and then the wheelbases. It tells you it gives passengers above average legroom and the convenience of 4 extra wide side windows. Wide tracks front and rear not only aid stability but also confer gains in interior width. Body contoured, the front reclining seats have head restraints adjustable for angle and height. Special spinal supports are built into the seats to make sure even the longest journey are fatigue free. The rear seats will comfortably take 3 adults. The Astra is very much a car to relax in and enjoy motoring for its own sake. And here it is, a little bit of a dark image actually. It's not the best picture I've ever seen, but a nice car in a nice colour, very much the car you probably would have seen in the car show, I guess. Top of the range model there, in an unusual colour. It then shows some little images of the rear, etc. And here it is from the rear, including, like it says, a rear wash wipe. It kind of like zooms in on the back there and shows us how it's badged. So with that 1300S engine, it badges it as such. And then the front headlights there. Reminder that this is just the same as a Kadett essentially. And then we get this really rather nice horsey scene, kind of like showcases it's got these head restraints, showcases it's got 5 doors as in a hatch as well, and a really low sill. Fog light kind of like tacked on as an afterthought, but that was very common at the time. So a nicely spec car for 1980, I think. Wonder how many of these in this exact colour GL spec are still around today. Be nice to know at least one's in really nice condition still around, wouldn't it? Because I do particularly like it. It's obviously a very historic car in many ways. Now moving on, Now, because essentially this is the only model in the range, there is a second page, so that's nice to see. We get better glimpses and better images actually on this page. It starts by giving all the features, which we'll have a little bit of a rundown, and then we'll look at the dash, the inside, etc. So, interior features. I think the main thing that's the attraction with this particular model is the velour cloth seats, and we'll look at them in a moment, but I think that really makes this particular model. Other things like reclined front seats, adjustable front seat head restraints, front inertia reel seat belts, fold down rear seat, fitted velour carpet, carpeted load compartments, full door trim, front continental door armrests, front door pockets, carpeted lower doors, rear door armrests, passenger assist straps, 4-spoke soft feel steering wheel, central console and tray, push button radio, twin sun visors, illuminated glove box, dipping rear view mirror, child-proof rear door locks, internal bonnet lock, heated rear window, hinged rear parcel shelf, 2-speed wipers and intermittent wipe, electric screen wash, stalk control for headlamp, dip, flash and turn indicators, interior light, front door courtesy switches, load compartment light, tailgate courtesy switch, front and rear ashtrays, air blend heater with 2-speed blower fan, illuminated heater controls, illuminated cigar lighter and a quartz clock. The interior features continue with an adjustable face level vents, side window demist vents, through floor ventilation system, instrument console incorporating speedometer, odometer, trip speedo, fuel and water, temperature gauges, warning lights for alternator, oil pressure, main beam and direction indicators, handbrake on and brake fluid loss. Exterior features are underbody protection, alkyd melamine paint, not sure exactly about that, body side protection mouldings, front air spoiler, matte black rear air extractor vents, halogen headlamps, tailgate wash wipe, remotely controlled driver's door mirror, hazard warning flashes, rear fog guard lamp, reverse lights, under bonnet lamp, tailgate gas filled, assist struts, retractable aerial, lockable fuel cap, 155 SR by 13 radial tyres, GL tailgate badge, choice of 11 colours. I really like the Vauxhall range of colours at this time. We can get options for this model as well, so metallic paint, which it certainly is showing it with the metallic paint, removable glass sunroof, sliding steel sunroof, tinted glass all round with laminated windscreen, and you can even option these with alloy wheels, which is quite nice and would have looked good on these early models. So we get a glimpse of the interior there, lovely carpeted boot actually, and that fold down rear seat, giving it plenty of practicality to this model. And there it is with the seat up and that sort of shelf on top hiding that luggage. Certainly a hatchback is something that people were really starting to move towards, so I think this came at a good time actually. So then we get a look at the interior, and like we saw in the features there, very high spec car really for 1980, although I'm sure the buyer would have been a little bit puzzled because there is a large bank of blanking plugs there, so that would have been confusing. You know, this is the only model I can get. It seems quite high spec, but it's full of blanking plugs, so that would have been a little bit confusing to the buyer at the time. Also interesting to note, no rev counter, which just seems a little bit unusual. Overall, well laid out, but certainly these Astras had quite a plasticky interior. And then we get this really rather lovely image. Their seats do look rather nice for 1980. There's lovely velour cloth seats and those head restraints, door cards matching as well. I would imagine if you saw this in 1980 in the showroom, the salesman let you climb aboard. I'm sure you would have been certainly attracted by the interior of this practical little hatch. But of course the problem with the Astra range this earlier on was that it was just your GL there. Your next model on, and the only other model is the Estate, only available in L trim at this time. We'll have a quick look at some of the text. I don't think we'll go through it all, and then we'll just glimpse over some of these images. Then we'll have a look at the Opel. So it tells us Astra L, 5-door Estate, front wheel drive, 1300 S power again. All the style and advanced engineering of the Astra hatchback, all the rugged reliability, plus even more versatility. That's what you get with the Astra 1300L Estate. So interior features, tweed cloth trim is going to be your noticeable one, of course, because you know, if you sit in this next to the showroom, it's not going to look as nice, but overall I don't mind cloth. It's better than vinyl after all, surely. And it's still got nice features like reclining front seats, adjustable front seat head restraints, etc. So it's actually quite nicely spec'd, just the L model, and it's got the head restraints, which for the UK is something at least. I'm not going to read the full list of interior features because a lot of them are just going to repeat what we've already looked at, but you can of course pause the screen at any time. I'm just going to put the screen on here. You feel free to pause this screen. I'm going to move the camera down now. A continuation of those features. Again, if you do want to read it, please feel free to pause, and I'll move the camera further down. More features, like I say, a lot of this is going to be repeating from the previous model. Obviously the GL's got a few extra things on there as well. Choice of 11 colours still, so you can still get a very colourful Astra L Estate. And then finally the end of those features, and telling you the only option is metallic paint, so you can still get a nice metallic colour rather than the white one shown here. And there it is, the Astra L, just one mirror on the driver's side. I guess the problem is the white makes it look even cheaper, doesn't it? But again, it wasn't particularly badly equipped for the time. And then when we look at the interior, also very nice with those head restraints. Nice colour, this orange. Maybe the white was the colour to go for. You got these nice orange seats. They're certainly very interesting. Like I say, not badly equipped. Like I say, you got head restraints and you got these really nice door cards as well. So you weren't really suffering too much in the 80s if you got these. There was of course going to be a lower spec Astra that would come out later. Actually, when we zoom in this brochure, it does show one error with this brochure. This will actually be body coloured, so this is actually not showing the white Estate anymore. This is body colour, not the actual door trim itself. Shown better when we look at the vehicle from the rear, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you can see the body colour, and this is the white version. And then it shows the reason why you would buy this after all is for all that extra luggage space. Then this is the Opel brochure for the same time. Kadett, Ascona, Manta, Record, Senator and Monza. Reliability comes as standard, and of course the lovely Opel badge on the front. And you'll certainly notice the difference for the Kadett straight away, because the first page you turn to is the Kadett, this rather lovely looking Kadett, which we'll probably zoom in a little bit on the front in a moment. It says, what do you like about your car? And this is all the introduction to the Kadett. Remember in the UK brochure we got that tiny little paragraph, and they almost like they didn't really care. Let's just zoom in on this main image. I'm assuming nobody would have been fooled that this was any different to the Astra, really. I mean, they've changed the grille obviously to have that nice Opel badge in the centre, but I don't think, were they even trying to fool anyone? Probably they wasn't. They were just saying this is other cars you could buy, and trying not to compete too much with each other in these early days. Anyway, let's turn the page. And then strangely, this page is actually talking about the range proper. Unfortunately, In some ways this is better than the Vauxhall brochure, sometimes it isn't as good because it doesn't really lay it out in each individual model, which is a shame because I think it would have really trumped the Vauxhall brochure if they did do it individually. It's talking about the range in the paragraph, and then we've got these little images here. So we'll certainly start reading through all this because that will really help us understand the range for the Kadett at the time when we compare it to the Astra. So it starts by telling us the new Kadett gives you plenty to enjoy, plenty of style, plenty of space, plenty of value and plenty of choice. Takes the hatchbacks. Thanks to the space-saving transverse engine and front-wheel drive, they offer ample room for 4 adults and their luggage, with the versatility of a folding rear seat and big tailgate to cope with the occasional bulky load. The doors open wide to make it getting in and out easy, while the low waistline and generous glass area make for good all-round visibility. So you can see right from the start they're trying to sell it in exactly the same way as they was trying to sell the Astra. And since the tailgate extends right down to the back bumper, you'll find it easy to make the most of the giant 34.4 cubic feet load area. For 2-star economy, choose a 3 or 5-door LS hatch back, both of which have our 60 bhp version of our new 1.3 litre OHC engine and a value for money specification that includes front seat head restraints and a lidded glove box and 4-spoke foam rimmed steering wheel. So straight away we can see that base model isn't even competing with the GL, so you know, if you wanted a more basic model, that's what you would have gone for. You would have gone to the Opel dealership. However, it says for more performance and luxury, there's the 75 bhp 5-door GL with wide sports wheels, a cigar lighter, quartz clock, rear window wash wipe and plenty more. But then it goes on to tell us, while the sumptuous 5-door Berliner offers velour upholstery, alloy wheels, tinted glass and high pressure headlamp washers, amongst many other things. So I think that GL, although it sounds similar to the Vauxhall GL, is certainly a little bit different on specifications. It doesn't appear to have those velour seats. You had to go to the higher Berliner for those. It continues, if you prefer a traditional saloon with a separate boot, you'll also find it in the new Kadett range. Like the hatchbacks, it has plenty of room, including a 14.4 cubic foot boot, and offers plenty of choice. You can take your pick from 2 or 4-door body styles, available as a 60 bhp LS or L, which despite its premium price has cloth upholstery, reclined front seats and of course German engineering. So it goes one further to say, you know, you can get this like super basic L if you want. So overall, you know, we can already see it's a far bigger range than we could get with the Astra at this early time. It says German engineering, and there are also 4-door GL and Berliner versions. Finally, the 2-door 75 bhp Kadett SR had been designed with the enthusiast very much in mind. So even though this is a tiny little picture, it's certainly the interesting model of the range to get that SR. Certainly nothing from Vauxhall had that at this time. Certainly that was the pick if you was, and certainly moving into the hot hatch era, of course, this is a nice early hot hatch, isn't it? Then we get various different images of various different models. It doesn't unfortunately tell us the specs of these images, sadly. It tells us those rear seat belts are of course optional extras. You can see this is much more a basic model than that Astra GL though, with these door cards and all the paint. You can see through the doors there. It also gives us a glimpse of the strange booted version. And then we get this model. Doesn't again tell us which particular spec this one is, but certainly lower specs than the GL Astra that we saw. And of course you could get your Kadett as an estate. More choice again with your Kadett at this time. Tells you can get a 3-door version available as an L or an LS. But you can also get a 5-door body with the LS or the GL. So more models covered there. Certainly a wider range of choice if you went Kadett. So I thought I'd just quickly throw this brochure up. This is from 1981, just to show the Astra range soon enlarged. Super basic version, the Astra E. You see the boot on there, a 2-door with a boot. Unusual model, I'm not sure why that really existed, to be honest with you. Didn't make much sense to not have it as a hatch on all the models, but there we go. Then we got the Astra L, and we can see the Astra L showing the paint on the body. You can also see on the E the different head restraints. It's nice that it did have head restraints even on this very basic model, but you can see they're a cheaper version. And then there was also still the GL showing exactly the same images in 1981 as we did in 1980. As for the estate, still one choice, your Astra L. So there we go, the Vauxhall Astra, seen there in 1980 and beyond. Overall, I think the Kadett really has this one with a much nicer range of cars at this time, at least until they kind of like consolidated Vauxhall and Opel together. But thank you so much for watching the show today. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. What model would you chose in 1980? And if you've certainly had any experience with these early Astras and Kadetts, always very interesting to learn more. But thank you so much for watching today. Next week we'll have a look at the Cavalier, no doubt doing some comparisons as well. But thank you so much for watching. We'll end by saying, if you've not done already, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. We'll end with a couple of boxes there for other episodes you may want to watch. One of them is going to be for the series, which will just include the Chevette from last week at this time, and then we'll add the future episodes so we can watch this series all together. But thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon. All the best. Take care and goodbye.